I want to bring up this foundation that we're going to talk about today. It's called the Profitability Pyramid. And it's based on the fact that as you take your strategy in your practice, you have to have the foundation down here to be able to make everything valuable and accurate up at the top. In other words, it's a garbage in, garbage out type of thinking. You have to have accurate, clean information and a way to set it up in a plan as the foundation. Or if you go to the top without doing the bottom, it'll collapse or give you completely wrong information. Okay? So it makes sense to spend a lot of time with best practices to get it set up right the first time. The Profitability Pyramid is a tool we use for dentists to demonstrate the critical financial systems of a practice. Because your numbers are useless if they are disorganized, we start with building the practice's foundation from the ground up. Data management is the cornerstone of your profitability pyramid, because understanding where everything goes in the accounting system and knowing where to find it, it is key to ensuring the accuracy of your reports. Next, we move on to the bookkeeping and payroll component. Regardless of who does your accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll management function, whether it's you or an accountant, it is critical that you classify all the entries correctly to be able to properly identify those in your reports. Compliance in all areas is critical to ensure that you have a solid record-keeping system that's accurate and prevents any sort of audit or compliance risks. Further building the foundation, the cash generation system of your practice is one part of it. Knowing where the cash flows of your practice come from, such as whether you collect income as a contractor or another source at another institution or your practice, is important to understanding the financial mix of your office. It's also critical to understand what your cash inflows are to determine what your true net is in the practice, not only for yourself at the office, but personally, to determine what you need to have in the office for financial independence from your practice at one point. At the very end of the pyramid, we have accounting controls. You could have the rest of your financial accounting system set up perfectly, but it would completely fall apart if your accounting control system was set up incorrectly. Dental practices are at a very high risk for fraud and embezzlement. It is imperative that your accounting control system be set up efficiently to quickly identify what you need to know to ensure the financial security of your practice. Now that we have built the foundation of the profitability pyramid, we can now go to the next step with our quality numbers to look at the financial reporting elements of your practice. The financial reporting component is where we take the numbers that have been part of your bookkeeping and accounting that you really have not seen as a whole in the past, and start to take those and place those where you can identify the strengths and weaknesses of your practice. This is a building block from the foundation of the profitability pyramid, in which the quality of the numbers and allocation of them below carry into the reporting to further to give you the confidence that you're making the right decisions with what you have in the practice. It is critical that you understand the financial reporting part of the pyramid, because you need to be able to quickly run reports when needed, whether it's for you or a third party like a consultant or another advisor, to be able to quickly identify and evaluate your practice. This part is imperative when you have a system set up for your business where you've got other advisors and a board looking after your office, but making that information very easily able for them to understand and be relevant to them versus having to recreate a bunch of numbers, which could result in higher costs to get to the same numbers if you were to do it right the first time. Moving over to the debt and overhead management part of the pyramid, we take a look at the practice's debt structure and overhead structure, as well as the personal debt structure that the dentist may have at home. This is important because for overhead, if you don't have your overhead classified correctly down below, it's going to take a long time to figure out really what you're spending your money on, and spending more time trying to get it corrected than you are trying to actually manage your overhead. Once you have your overhead correct on your accounting system, you're going to find that you may wind up with a net income number that is much higher than what you are taking home. And many times that is because of the debt part of the cash management system, where you may have a lot of principal payments that you're still making on a loan or a purchase loan that are showing up elsewhere on your financial statements but are subtracted from what you can take home. It's important to know the cause and effect elements of that so that you can understand the financial structure of your practice at a given point in time during your career. All right, tracking and analysis. As we go further up on the profitability pyramid, we really get to the fun stuff that most dentists like to talk about and also want to understand themselves. And it's about the tracking and analysis that is only as good as what you have built it from the ground up. When you're able to look at your practice overhead and to accurately use it to benchmark appropriately different areas of your practice with your other statistics, such as your management stats, new patients, other items, when you look at those together as you should, you're going to be able to see what the power is of really where your revenue is coming from, where your money is going, and what you can do in your practice to make it your own and to further brand it and to bring it to the practice that you will have as you continue throughout your careers. As we start looking at your practice, we want to measure what we call KPIs. Those are called key performance indicators. And those are critical to measuring the pulse of your practice over anything and everything you ever want to measure in your business. There are many key performance indicators out there, but there's only a select few that really need to be looked at any given time, and maybe a few different ones on an ongoing basis. Those key performance indicators are critical because they combine the financial and the non-financial metrics of your practice, such as in your practice statistics, to tell you how much revenue are you bringing in per patient and what is your cost. How much overhead am I incurring in my office for each day that I'm working? To be able to look at your key performance indicators, they need to be accurate. And when you have those calculated or available for calculation for an outside consultant or advisor, they should be numbers that are quickly retrieved and provided versus having to go back and clean up a bunch of items before you provide them. Once you have a solid understanding of your practice, you can then use those numbers to set strategic financial goals in the future. The planning and forecasting component of the profitability pyramid is where you take your practice's benchmarked historical data and use it to set realistic financial and projected goals for the future. as you go through the profitability pyramid, you're going to see that you're going to be using different financial reports along the way, but not all of them at once. It is critical that you have an understanding of all of the items that make up your overhead so that you can accurately project which ones will continue and which ones will not. We work with dentists to set realistic financial goals for themselves personally and what their business needs to be providing in order for them to become financially independent. And in order for that to be successful, we have to measure progress and performance of these goals along the way to see if we are making those goals successful for what the client is wanting to become. Only when you get to this point are you able to ever go in and take a look at a practice and the client individually and to see what is going on from an outside perspective. Profit maximization. The top of the pyramid in the most complex and difficult place to get to in a practice if you're going to be optimizing your financial systems. It is difficult to tell a dentist what is the best path and most efficient path for them to maximize profits when they do not know all of the pistons that are driving your practice. It may not necessarily be your overhead. You may look at your overhead and think it's high, but then you may be forgetting to look at the one line on your profit and loss statement that is your revenue that may be underperforming. And it may be underperforming for many reasons. It could be slow new patients, or your fees could be at rock bottom and they should be at a certain level based on the quality of the type of practice that you are. And so that may be the key to where your profit may go versus somebody else who has a different situation in their practice. But for a third-party advisor and a consultant to fully understand that, they have to know everything like we just talked about for them to be able to go in and fully make an accurate assessment of what is going to maximize your practice profitability. And you're going to find out that very few people can actually come in and do that without knowing all of those elements.